Thanks for joining us. I'm Gabe with Backwoods Pursuit. Today we're going to do an Exped Lyra 2 tent review. The Lyra 2 tent here can be set up in 4 different modes. I'm going to show you each of those modes. It's available in a 2 and 3 person model, so you can pick what works best for you. At the end of the video here, I'm going to show you a couple of things that I liked about the Exped Lyra 2 and some things that I didn't care for myself personally after using it for a while. I've been playing with this for a couple of months now and spent quite a few nights in it. So I'm going to show you some of those things that I liked, some of the things that I didn't. I did a little bit of rain testing, a little bit of snow testing, was able to put it out in some elements in my uses here. So I'll show you all of those. As always, we really do appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button for us. Follow us on our Facebook and Instagram accounts as well, Backwoods Pursuit, and check out our website, backwoodspursuit.com. We're always putting new gear reviews out there as well. So I'll put a link down in the description to all those, as well as a link to this tent if you want to check it out. Let's go get started. So I went ahead and threw this up real quick just so I can show you, and then we get into some of the specs here. The Lyra 2 here is a 1-pole setup. They're all connected all together, so you don't have multiple poles and try to figure out which goes on which end, that sort of thing. So it's all one piece, which is kind of nice. There's not really a front and a back on this, just the poles are the same on both ends, so it makes it really easy to get set up really quick. The top here is a green no-seam mesh. The floor and the canopy are both a 68D polyurethane coated polyester, and so it's really a burly tent. It's something that's going to hold up really well. It's not like a 15D or 10D where it's going to be in the ultralight category. The specs on this are about what you would expect, as far as it's just over 4 pounds, about 4 pounds 4 ounces is the minimum weight on this. The package weight is 4 pounds 9 ounces, so it kind of depends on how you want to set that up. But it is freestanding, so you don't need the pegs or the stakes to get this to stand up. Of course, if it's windy like it is here today, you're gonna need those stakes. But this is a freestanding tent, and you do have a really solid and durable tent with a ton of living space. Your interior height is just over 47 inches. And you have over 30 square feet on the inside of the tent as well. So it really gives you a lot of space on the inside. It's really a livable shelter. So let's go over some of the different modes here. You got 4 different modes you can set this up in. That kind of makes it a real versatile shelter that you can use no matter what the weather is. So let's go over the 4 modes. All right, so here is mode number 1 for the Lyra 2. This is what they call the Optimist mode. You don't put the rain fly in, and of course it's freestanding. You have a lot of no-seam mesh up there on the top, so you can see the stars, get full ventilation. So certainly, obviously, your nicer and warmer nights, you can use it for that. This is mode number 1. It of course does lighten the weight up if you don't have the fly on there, but of course you don't have the rain protection. So one of the pole features here I wanted to highlight while I have the fly off, here is the top end of this. You've got kind of a Y with a hub right here, and that goes up over the top. And then you do have a cross member bar right here that goes across the tent, holds the edges out, so it gives you a lot of interior livable space. And then the same thing here on this end, another hub, another Y right there. All right, some of the other features here, you've got a real nice big door, really makes it nice and easy to get in and out of. There's 2 doors, one on each side, so they are both the same size, really nice that way. On the inside, you've got pockets right there in each of the corners up at the head of the tent. 1 each there, and then you also have a light disbursement, or a light pocket up here for your flashlight, and that really makes it nice for sticking your flashlight up there and illuminating the whole tent. So that's most of the interior features, other than just real nice big roomy tent on the inside with a real nice high peak height. All right, so the next mode here that you can put this in is the Stargazer mode. You can see I went ahead and threw the fly on, the rain fly there, and then to get Stargazer mode, you go ahead and put this, or roll half of that up to the top cross member right here, and there's an attachment point. You can go ahead and roll that up, a little piece of elastic there to keep that in place. and you go ahead and roll that back, so now you can see stars at night and have a nice view of the evening sky if the weather is nice and you don't have to worry about rain or wind, that sort of thing. So that's kind of what it looks like with that half of the fly rolled back and attached up on top there. You still have half of the vestibule on each side, so if you need to keep something underneath there, you sure can, but it allows you to have a nice view of the evening if you want to do so. So that is the stargazer mode. So now let's look at the next mode. All right, let's look at the third mode here. This is what they call the breezeway mode. So this is where you unstake the vestibules on both sides and roll back both sides of it, just like this. So you've got 4 different attachment points here where you are basically eliminating the vestibule space, but you're rolling them back and attaching both on all 4 sides here, one there, and then 2 on the other side as well. So it gives you a ton of ventilation in here. Of course, you lose a protection from the vestibule and you lose your vestibule space, but you get a ton of ventilation. You can see all the way through the tent. It just really makes it nice and breezy on those warmer nights. And of course, it is like that on all the way around on the different the 2 different sides. Still have your 2 doors, 2 vestibules, and it looks about like that, looking from the end. So you have no vestibules, but you still do have some rain protection. You just have a lot more of your ability to have the tent breathe and ventilate really, really well. Now the 4th and final mode, you can set up the Lyra 2 in here, is what they call the privacy mode. So as you can see, it's kind of what it sounds like. You've got all of the stakes down. You've got the vestibules staked down and zipped up, so it gives you the most weather protection. So if you've got rain, snow, or anything like that, wind, this would be the mode that you would use primarily. So you would go ahead and stake everything down all the way around and tension it down. So that's the way that looks. I'm going to swing around over here. I left one of the vestibules open so you can see the vestibule space. You do have real nice sized vestibules. When those are all buttoned up, you've got, I believe, 14 square feet each in these vestibules, so a nice size that way. All right, so now that we've looked at the 4 different options, 4 different modes that you can set this up in, let's go over a couple of the things I liked about the Lyra 2 and a couple things that I didn't. All right, so a couple things I really liked about the Exped Lyra 2 tent here. One being the 68D rain fly and floor. Obviously it adds weight to the overall weight of the tent, but it's something that you know is going to be really durable and last you a long time. Really does a good job of keeping out rain and wind, snow, that sort of thing. Handles all that really well. Another thing that I really like about this is the large vestibule space. You can easily fit a pack in here and a lot of gear if you need to do that. You know, some vestibules are real small and not that usable, but this one gives you a lot of space that way. Another one is just, you can see how big these doors are. Let me pull this back for you, and you can just see how big these doors open up to, where you can make getting in and out of this really super easy. So that's one thing I really liked about this, as well as the interior livable space. It's just a nice big, you know, I'm sitting up here, then 47 inches is the peak height here, so you got a lot of livable space. Fitting 2 people inside here is really quite easy for a backpacking tent anyways. The zippers are all real good quality, and they really just made the Lyra 2 a livable tent. So with that, of course, comes a cost, and that brings me to a couple of things I didn't care for about the Lyra 2 quite as much. Of course, the weight is one. Being over 4 pounds, that's on the heavier side for a backpacking tent. But you know, you get in relation to that, you get a heavier weight tent, one that's going to be more durable for you. So it depends on what's most important for you. Another thing I liked about this is the price point. While it's not a cheap tent, I think it retails for $279 if I recall correctly for the Lyra 2. It's certainly not overly expensive like some that are, you know, $400, $500, $600 for a similar style tent. So the price point is manageable on this tent, something you know is going to last a while. Another thing that I didn't care for quite as much on the Lyra 2, I'm going to show you here, is with the fly. So when you tighten this all down, one of the things that I wasn't able to get as far as tension wise on this is the way that this, I mean, I guess you could guy this out a little bit if you wanted, but it's not really designed to be a guy out point. That's for the vestibule. But basically, it was real difficult to get a really good tension right here on each of the vestibule sides. So, you know, when the wind blows, you have a little bit of of flapping going on right there as far as that. So I would have liked to be able to see a way to get this tighter, but just the design, the shape of it makes it real difficult to do that. Even if you have everything else nice and tight, I wasn't able to really get that this section of the tent real tight. So I'll show you one more thing with the fly off that I didn't care for so much. So I'm gonna pull that off and I'll show you that real quick. All right, so the last thing here that I didn't personally care for on the Lyra 2 is this section of the tent right here. So you can see with the pole design, the way that you've got this one solid pole here, like I mentioned earlier, but you have with the cross member there, and then the next connection point here, it leaves for a little bit of a not sagging so much, but just the way the material falls is right here, and this is at the head of the tent. This is where your head's going to be. So because of that, you don't have use of it's not a 90-degree angle right here, and it kind of falls inward just a little bit, and especially if you put anything in these pockets on the inside here, it's going to pull that in like that. So you end up having to move your head over here to the middle section just a little bit more. Not a big deal, but of course once you get your sleeping bag in there and your pad, being that both the top and the bottom section of the tent is this same design, you have the likelihood that a portion of your sleeping bag may hit the edge of the tent, either that or your head. So you end up having to move your head here on the inside, which of course if it's your significant other, it's not a big deal necessarily, but if it's a hunting buddy or something like that, it might be a little too close for comfort anyways. So this is what I mentioned as far as the head space being reduced. You can see if I put the camera right alongside of the tent how this section right here kind of falls in a little bit, and that's the way it is on both sides. So what that does is if you have your pad laying here, of course your head's right here, you're going to be pretty close to the top of that, and that effectively reduces the usable space because the edge of that's not as squared off as it could be. So it's not a huge complaint, but just something that I noticed once you get two people in here. Even though the width is great for two people, you kind of have to move your head to the inside there to where you're not having your head or the top of the hood of your sleeping bag touch the side of that tent right there, and that's the same on the top and the bottom. Anyways, so that's something I wish could be changed or moved just a little bit to where that's pulled out. And if you had full use of this 90-degree angle right there, you would have a ton more interior room just up here in the corner. Otherwise, there's a ton of room, ton of headroom, a real livable space inside, save for just the corners there. So that's really the only other thing that I didn't care for on the Lyra 2. Otherwise, a really great tent. Alright, so now that we've looked over the features of the Lyra 2 here, let's look at how it did in some wind, rain, and snow. And we had a little bit of that kind of weather, and so I was able to throw it up in the backyard and just leave it out there for multiple days and see how it did in those conditions. It was raining for multiple days in a row, then some snow rolled in, and it was a little bit windy throughout that a little bit. So I took some video while it was out there in the rain and snow, so I'm going to put that up now here and walk you through that. So as you can see here in the rain, as the rain moved in, you can see the fly there gets a little bit of moisture soaked into it, but it doesn't sag too much. It's not bad at all. It really maintains the shape pretty well. You do get a little bit there. You can see where a little bit of the rain fly, as it gets more and more soaked over the course of a couple of days, it does sag a little bit there, but really nothing to be concerned about. It never touches the inside of the mesh or anything like that, so it really fared pretty well that way. Of course, you can see there, and earlier in the video, you can see how the wind affects that just a little bit. You get in those places I mentioned earlier, and some of those corners, the wind kind of makes the fly flap around just a little bit. I wish I could get a little more tension out of that, but I really couldn't. I tried multiple ways of setting that up and tensioning that down, but really that was about the best I could get it. And then as we move over to the snow, you can see there wasn't, of course, a lot of snow here, just a little skip of snow, but it did great in the snow. For the most part, the snow just didn't really stick on the tent too much. There wasn't, of course, like I said, much snow there, so I wasn't really able to test the snow load if it accumulated a whole bunch, but it seemed to do really well. And these poles are 9mm poles, so I believe they're going to be pretty durable that way and hold up to a snow load pretty decently. So that is the Exped Lyra 2 tent. Hopefully that gives you a quick rundown and is helpful about the features of this new tent from Exped. Drop a question or comment down there in the comment section, and we will answer every single one of those for you, help you out in making the decision if this is the right tent for you. Thanks for joining us here today. We'll see you next time.